Today I'll show you how to knit feather and fan. This gorgeous lace stitch is a well-known Shetland pattern. It's sometimes called Old Shell or Old Shale because the stitch resembles the ocean waves rolling onto sand shales. It's a beautiful and deceptively easy lace pattern that lays flat. This is part of the Best Beginner Stitches series. To see the whole series, click on the link in the top right or in the description. I've got more details about this stitch on my website, including tips and tricks, knitting charts, and how to knit the stitch in the round. Link in the description. So I'm using Paintbox Yarns Cotton DK in the color 455 Peach Orange and a pair of 4mm needles. So we're going to start by casting on a multiple of 18 stitches. You can cast on 18 or 36 or 54 and on and on. I've casted on 54 stitches in this demo. So let's start with row 1. We're going to start by knitting all the stitches across the row. Simple enough, right? So we'll just knit the first stitch, and the second stitch, and the third stitch, and the rest of the stitches for row 1. So here's my last knit stitch for row 1. Let's knit that. Great. Now let's turn the needle over and work row 2. Now row 2 is also really easy. Row 2 is just purling all the stitches across the row. So I'll bring my yarn up front and purl the first stitch, and the second stitch, and the third stitch across the whole row. So now I'm at the end of row 2. Here's my last purl, and now I can turn my needle over. So row 3 is where things get interesting. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a knit 2 together, and we're going to do that 3 times. So a knit 2 together is basically a decrease, and we would take our right needle, and instead of going into 1 stitch, we're going to go into 2 stitches like this. And then we're going to knit those 2 stitches together so that these 2 stitches now become 1 stitch. There we go. So that's 1 stitch. So that is a knit 2 together. So we're going to do that 3 times for feather and fan. So here's our first knit 2 together, and we're going to do our second knit 2 together. So here we go into 2 stitches. There we are. That's our second knit 2 together. And now we're going to do our third knit 2 together. So I'm going to go into these 2 stitches right here. There we go, and knit into them. Knit 2 together. So there we go. We've done 3 knit 2 togethers. Now we're going to do what's called a yarn over and a knit 1. So a yarn over is literally what it sounds like. We're just going to bring our yarn from the back of our needle to the front of our needle. Okay, that's a yarn over. Simple enough, right? From the back of our needle to the front of our needle. Yarn over and then knit 1. Okay, so here's our yarn over. And we'll knit 1, and that is a yarn over knit 1, and we're going to do that 6 times. So this was our first one, so we'll do that 5 more times. Yarn over, knit 1, that's 2. Yarn over, knit 1, that's 3. Yarn over, knit 1, that's 4. Yarn over, knit 1, that's 5. Yarn over, knit 1, and that's 6. Okay? So next we're going to do a knit 2 together 3 times. So we've just done that at the very beginning. So here we go. Knit 2 together. There's 1. Knit 2 together. There's 2. And knit 2 together. That's 3. All right, so that is the repeat. The instructions between the asterisks are the repeat of this pattern, and that means that we just repeat the instructions all the way to the end of the row. Okay, so that was our first repeat, so let's continue working it. We're going to go back to knit 2 together 3 times. So here we go. Knit 2 together 1 time, knit 2 together 2 times, and knit 2 together 3 times. Cool. And then we're going to yarn over and knit 1 6 times. So here we go. Yarn over and knit 1. Yarn over, knit 2. Yarn over, knit 3. Yarn over, knit 4. Yarn over, knit 5. Yarn over and knit 6. Great. And now we're going to knit 2 together 3 times. Here we go. Pushing into 2 stitches here, knit 2 together 1 time, pushing into these 2 stitches, knit 2 together 2 times, and here's our 2 stitches, knit 2 together 3 times. And that's the end of our second repeat. All right, so we're going to continue doing this to the end of the row. And our last 2 stitches, we're going to knit 2 together, and that's a total of 3 times. Cool. So now we have just completed row 3 of the pattern. Now row 3 is the most difficult part of feather and fan, so if you've made it through, then congratulations. Next, we're going to turn our needle over and do a row of knit stitches. So we're just going to knit all of these stitches. So I'll just push my needle in and do a regular row of knits. And when you get to the yarn overs, you can see it just looks like a strand of yarn across the needle with no stitches beneath it. That's the yarn over, and you would just knit into it, okay? Just pretend like it's any other old stitch. Here's another yarn over, and you'll just knit into it. And the yarn over kind of creates this hole in the knitting, and that's what creates that nice lacy pattern in the feather and fan. All right, so just knit into those yarn overs. And now I'm near the end of row 4. Here's my last knit stitch, and there we go. Cool. So now I have completed the 4-row repeat for feather and fan. And it doesn't look like very much now, but as you continue knitting, you'll see this beautiful stitch come to life. Continue to work rows 1 to 4 to knit more feather and fan. To stay organized, I would recommend writing out the pattern for each row 1, 2, 3, and 4, and every time you finish a row, just make like a little mark, okay? So when you finish row 1, make a mark. When you finish row 2, make a mark. When you finish row 3 and row 4, and back to row 1 and row 2, and that way you can stay organized in the pattern. Because there are a lot of knit, purl, and knit rows, it's just easier to stay organized so you know where you are in the pattern. So after knitting a few repeats, my knitting looks like this. You can really start to see that beautiful wave pattern show up. Thanks for watching. This is part of the Best Beginner Stitches series. Watch the whole series here or click the link in the description. I'm Davina from sheepandstitch.com, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!